I mean, it all started with Right Sparks. I went on it not thinking that I would write a play. I'd just go on and see how it goes. And at the end of it, we were given a task. We want a script in, I think it was something like by 31st of January. And I said, no way. And Catherine said, okay, when do you want? And I said, June. Well, I was one of the 3 that got it in for the 31st of January. That's all. So Catherine and Jute looked at it and said, we think might go. And then really everything, you know, I've been a writer in residence. There is no way I could have imagined it without Jute.
Jute is celebrating its 30th birthday, and one of the great things about Jute is the support they give to up-and-coming playwrights, people who maybe have never thought about writing a play before, but they've got a great idea. It might be about their life, and they get the support to try and turn that idea into a show. And one of those people who's involved in that process is my next guest. Hello, Marilyn Marsh-Booth, how are you?
I am very well, thank you, Fiona.
Lovely to be chatting with you as we celebrate the 30th birthday of Jute. Take me back to the first Jute show that you saw.
Came up to Cairns in about 1988, and I remember probably the first one was Shakespeare in the Park, and it was this Jute theatre company. Never heard of them, but it seemed interesting, and it was amazing. Oh, I couldn't believe it to see figures appearing out of the park in the dark, and it was just quite amazing. And then I went on to see other shows there, and there was one in the Wharf Theatre, which used to be the old Wharf before it was renovated, Cabaret Kamikaze, and that was just, you know, out of left field. There was things happening here and things happening there. It was just amazing, and I thought, who are these people?
Wow, so you've almost been there since the start.
A long time back.
A long time.
Yeah.
And since that first show, you became involved in many and varied different guises, but as a volunteer, firstly?
Started off as a volunteer, just going in for the shows and ushering, things like that, and then just infiltrating my way in. And then I went on to the actors course. I was there and Catherine suggested, I think I might have mentioned I was writing a book. And Catherine said, have you thought about doing a play? Oh, I said, no, not a play, no. So I did the actors course. And then the option to go on Right Sparks came along.
We'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, but just with the actors course, have you been tempted to try your hand at treading the boards at all?
Not really, no. I think I've always been a bit of an actor in my life, and I went to something very early on. There was a dramaturge came up from Sydney, I think it was, and I went to one of the shows, the little showcases, dramaturgical showcases, and I thought, what on earth is all this about? Never even heard the word before, but it was the famous Michael Gow. So I got a little taste there, and it was quite nice to see how things happen and how a play progresses. So I think the seed was sown.
And the book you're writing is about your life, but
It is.
I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about your life, because you have had an extraordinary career in the aviation industry. So just a little snapshot of that.
Yes, I started off not knowing what I was going to do when I left school, but I thought I'd like to travel. What better way than be a flight attendant? So I got a job with an airline, and then one day I was taken up the front and sat there on a flight, and I was blown away by the speed and the power, and that's what sold me. I was going to do that.
You were going to be a pilot.
Yes, and I think what the play has really made me realise that I love to strive for the apparently unachievable, which that was at that time.
So even though at the time that you were, you know, training and becoming a pilot, there were lots of changes happening for women in their lives, but this particular industry seemed to be a tough nut to crack.
It was. But at that time, I didn't really see it. I just saw a goal and forged my way ahead. You know, and if there's a barrier, I was going to get through it, because that was another challenge.
Yeah. And you did, and you notched up some firsts for female pilots. Perhaps you can tell us about that.
There was another lady flying when I got there, but for the first 3 years, they wouldn't let us fly together.
Isn't that funny? Why is that?
I think their excuse was that if anything happens, just think of the publicity. It'd be terrible.
Oh, goodness.
So we didn't fly together for 3 years. And then when we did, everybody said, well, let's celebrate. You know, it's amazing. No. They wanted something low key. Nothing would said it would be a normal flight. And that was the beauty about the airline that I flew for. We were pilots. We weren't male or female pilots. We were pilots.
But there was a bit of a fuss made, wasn't there? That first flight, I think you made, that first commercial flight you made together.
Although the company didn't, we actually flew to Bern in Switzerland. When we got there was a full brass orchestra, the bears of Bern, you know, and I got big bunches of flowers. And,
how nice.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. So your story, Cloud Song is the name?
It is.
Cloud Song. It's a beautiful name. I love it. Where are you at with that in terms of, you know, turning it into a play?
I would never have believed it, but a play takes... This one is going to be 3 years, which is short, really short. We're quite a long way ahead. We've done one creative development workshop, which was very interesting for me. People coming in and seeing my words on stage. So that was exciting, and changing lots. Since then we've rewritten and rewritten. We're doing another creative development in August, and then next year on stage.
Oh, that's
hopefully.
And this was all part of the Right Sparks program. So
certainly.
Could you have done it without Right Sparks?
No. I mean, it all started with Right Sparks. I went on it not thinking that I would write a play. I'd just go on and see how it goes. And at the end of it, we were given a task. We want a script in, I think it was something like by 31st of January. And I said, no way. And Catherine said, okay, when do you want? And I said, June. Well, I was one of the 3 that got it in for the 31st of January. That's all. So Catherine and Jute looked at it and said, we think might go. And then really everything, you know, I've been a writer in residence. There is no way I could have imagined it without Jute.
Oh, wow.
No.
I'd like to know a little more about what it is like when you've got actors on the stage and they are reading your words. And, you know, how does that feel for you?
The first act I saw was something I'd written. I don't want to give it away, but I had no idea how this would happen on stage. I'd never seen it or heard of it, and I was trying to think. And I think I put notes in there like, how do we do this on stage? And Catherine and I went upstairs to change something, I think, or print something. When I came down, they were doing it. They'd actually worked it out, and it was just amazing. Wow. So funny. Really humour in it.
Well, talking of funny things, take us, you know, I'm sure lots of interesting things happen during this creative development process. You got any little stories you'd like to share with us?
I think there are lots of stories that happen during that week. Some we probably can't talk about. But there was another one which was really interesting. I had written a bit, and again I was out of the room, and when I went down, here's somebody twirling and twirling and twirling around in a chair, and we put this into the scene, you know, and things like that. But it sort of takes me back to the time when I was remembering coming to Jute as an audience member and watching some of the plays and thinking, I'm not sure. And Sue Ellen would always say to me when I went out, so what did you think of that play? Did you enjoy it? And I said, yes. Did you understand what it was all about? And I said, no. But I love the acting.
Yeah.
I was just watching the acting, and I love to go. Same with music. Do I understand it? Do I like it? But I love watching all the bits that make up the whole thing.
Well, it doesn't matter really as long as you enjoy the experience.
Yeah,
because it is an
absolutely.
experience, isn't it?
It is, and people go through different things.
Yeah. Could you have imagined like this happening for you, like writing a play
No.
and having it performed?
No.
Amazing.
No. I mean, I wouldn't have even put it out there, and I didn't think it was possible. I mean, even when we started, it was like, well, I'll do this writer's course. And then, whatever, I've done a writer's course. But going on from there, just really amazing, amazing. I still can't believe it. And even now, if we don't get any further, it's been just, you know, and that's the beauty about Jute. You know, the more I go in there, and I worked backstage in Jute for one of the last plays, which again was an eye-opener.
I'll bet.
You know, you just think it all happens on stage. A light comes on, a light goes off, but that light can take half a day to plan. There's just so much goes on.
Must be crazy backstage sometimes. I don't know. I can just imagine.
It's fun. Yeah, and I got the opportunity actually to work backstage on that last play. Again, it's something the unachievable. I saw this idea of maybe I could just work backstage. And as Catherine said to me, you just rabbited away until you got there, didn't you? So I got a job as trainee assistant stage manager.
Cool.
Yeah, volunteering. So how about that?
It's so exciting. I am really looking forward to seeing your play next year. I don't know, let's just imagine, you know, opening night.
Oh, too scary.
You don't want to go there.
I think the week before you do so much work, and it's honed, but, you know, I found another thing during the play. The writer writes it, and then once you go into the pre-production week or fortnight, really there's not much they have to do with it, and then it becomes the directors, and then it becomes the stage managers, so it kind of changes hands. So I'll just be an observer sitting in the back seat, probably with my handkerchief.
Who do you want to play you?
Oh, well, that's a secret.
Well, chukas for that, Marilyn. Really looking forward to it. And thank you so much for chatting with us to celebrate Jute's 30th birthday.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Fiona.
Marilyn Marsh-Booth, one of the graduates, I suppose you could say, of the Write Sparks program, writing her life story that we will be able to see on stage. Look out for it, Cloud Song.